Hello and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Aussie writers and other creatives.
Hello, and I'm Lynn Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content writer as well, and Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we're bringing you all kinds of tips, ideas, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business.
Hi Lynn, how are you? How's your week been?
Well, Rachel, I'm pretty well. In fact, I'm still here and I'm pretty busy. So that's a good thing. And that's all I can ask. And I am so grateful that I don't have to do any remote learning with my day. I'm beyond that, unlike you. So I can't complain at all.
Yes, I've got a new strategy where I try and front load all the remote learning in before 12. And then after 12, I try and squash all my work into the afternoon. And so far it's going okay. All I can say is thank goodness for Lego and grandparents. The good news is we have another great guest on the pod today. It's Lucy Kippist, who's formerly of Flying Solo. I know many of you will have crossed paths with Lucy. She's now with Mums & Co. And I know that she's going to have some great tips for our listeners.
Oh, yes. I'm such a big fan of the Flying Solo podcast. I've listened to it heaps. I think it has lots of great information for sort of like business owners like us. And I'm sure Lucy will have some great tips to share with us. And I'm just going to read a quick bio of Lucy. So Lucy Kippist is the community manager of Mums & Co., which is a community for business owning mothers and their support network. She previously worked as editor for Flying Solo. She's passionate about small business and the people courageous enough to create them. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh my goodness. It's so great to see you again. We've had a few lunches, haven't we, recently until lockdown happened, but I think we have actually known each other quite a long time. I was trying to remember the first time that we crossed paths, and I think it was when you were working as a journo at News and you wrote an article about Letter to My Ex, which is a website I just launched and it's still going, but, you know, doesn't get a lot of love from me these days. I have someone else uploading the letters, but that's right, isn't it? That's the first time that we sort of met, I suppose.
That is right. And that took me right back there. I think I was working for The Punch at the time, that opinion site that was attached to the Daily Telegraph. And I absolutely loved that site. So yeah, it really caught my attention. And so it still exists now.
It does. We get lots of letters, lots of very, very sad people passing through. Letter to My Ex.
Book, Rachel. When you
I know. When I have time, I'll add it to my very long to-do list.
When there's no more remote learning.
That's it. Yes. But we stayed in touch, and I think I wrote for you on Flying Solo a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And you're now at the helm of another massive community, Mums & Co.
I am. Yes. I started with Mums & Co. in March this year, so about 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're obviously the woman to talk to when it comes to building engaged communities, but why don't you talk us through your career and what your current role involves?
I am a journalist by trade. I always wanted to be a journalist. I told my parents when I was 7, that was my intention. It took me 20-something years to get there, but whatever. I got my very first job as a journo was with Career One, which was a site that existed at News Corp at the time, a website and a job board run by Kate Southam, who is and still is my mentor. So she hired me because I wrote her a letter to her Ask Kate column and said, could I please have a job?
Well done. I love the initiative.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I was so blown away by that. She was like, well, okay. It wasn't quite that easy, but sort of the go. So I started there with her and I loved it. And I think from there, that's where Kate was so, and is still so passionate about work and careers and helping people find their thing. And I just fell in love with the idea of writing about work. So I wasn't there particularly long until The Punch job came up, which was the opinion site started by David Pemberthy with the Daily Telegraph.
I loved The Punch. It was great. Actually wrote a piece for it too, I remember.
Okay. Okay. It was the best job I could ever have had at that time in my very, very early journo days. But I got thrown into this job I was the most junior by a lot, but I was working with these 4 incredible journalists, Tori Maguire, David Pemberthy, Paul Colgan, and then Anthony Sharwood came on board as well. And So I was there for 3 years, and that really was a career highlight. It taught me how to write opinion, which is terrifying. It was so terrifying at the time, to write really, really quickly, and just to have that, just to be around those brains, those journos. They were all newspaper journos. I started in digital. I have never written for a paper. I've written articles that have been in a paper, but I've never written for a paper. So I'm 100%
Digital.
and digital.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a really pinnacle moment. Then I moved into news.com.au, and I was the features editor for a little while. And then I moved over. I had a baby, my first baby, and I went to KidSpot, which was the News Corp parenting website, still exists. And I was there for lots of years. And then I went to Kindling Kids Radio from there.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was a fantastic job. Honestly, the punch like that was great, because it just sort of pushed me through this funnel of people, and the network grew, and that was very lucky, and I'm still very grateful for that. And from Kindling, I moved to Flying Solo. I'd sort of been writing for Flying Solo on the side when I was on maternity leave, and I just fell in love with the site, because I had, my passion for work, writing about work, had started so early. Took a bit of a nosedive, like an about turn, writing about parenting. And then I have 2 boys, and as they started to get out of that baby stage, I was like, I really want to write about something else now. I'm really, I'm ready for something new. And the Flying Solo sort of thing fell in my lap. So I started as an editor for them part-time on maternity leave. And I did that for about 3 years, just writing articles and doing their socials, and that, working for Robert, who started Flying Solo, and Peter and Sam, they were together at that stage. And again, just have that opportunity to work for someone who was so passionate about work, but this time in the context of small business. And I've completely fallen in love with the idea of starting a small business, and the people that create them, and the courage and the tenacity and the sheer slog of it.
Yeah.
And so I was at Flying Solo for 3 years, nearly 2.5 years, and then I've just taken on a role with Mums & Co, because I'm so passionate about helping other women, and my work at Flying Solo had showed me that even in the past 18 months, the trajectory of people starting small businesses, women are actually the biggest growing demographic, and mums are, a great proportion of that number. And I really wanted to get into the thick of that community, even at Flying Solo, which was obviously for men and women, obviously, but women were such an important part of that community at Flying Solo. And I'm still inspired daily by how women approach that, how women approach being freelancers, running a small business, doing all the things, being parents or not being parents, whatever it is. I just love watching a woman approach that challenge. And Mums & Co, that job came up, and it just felt like a perfect alignment of all of the things that I'm interested in. So that's it in a nutshell. That's me.
It's fantastic.
That's a big nutshell. That is really interesting. I mean, you obviously know that I'm a Flying Solo member to this day under Rachel's list. And, we have a lot of freelancers listening. And I know that at Flying Solo, you worked with a lot of small businesses, and you do today at Mums & Co. But I think that a lot of freelancers tend to forget that they're a small business. Perhaps they don't put that business hat on when it comes to doing, invoicing promptly, or handling their super, or all those little things that we have to do, as well as the other stuff to make money. So did you pick up some tips from successful business owners that are applicable to freelancers, I guess?
Absolutely. And it's so interesting what you say, Rachel, because I agree with you too, just in the way that freelancers tend to maybe not see themselves as that. But certainly at Flying Solo, we sort of funneled everyone in terms of solo business owners. That's what they were. And that's what you are as a freelancer, by and large, and mostly.
Yeah.
So tips for, in terms of, yes, I did pick up a million tips that still race around my head. And I think one of the best tips is to find a community. And that's what you've created, Rach, like here with Rachel's List. It's amazing. I've always followed you on Instagram and everything else. And you still need a community.
It's almost like you need that water cooler as well, don't you?
That's exactly what it is. And even the most, not saying that all freelancers are introverted, but even the most introverted solo business owner / freelancer needs that, I suppose, that point of when things aren't going well, like as we're talking now in the middle of COVID lockdown or whatever, you need that sense of solidarity.
I love that.
Connection.
Yeah, the connection. And I've become obsessed with that, what that means, what we need that to look like. And I think in the context of a freelancer where your job is largely very creative as well, that's vital. And I think some people can have that in an enclave maybe of their own making, but I think there's something to be said for a broader community. And I think, Rachel, we talked about not long ago how you guys have that part of your board where if you've got too much work, the overflow post. Sorry if I'm...
We don't have that yet. It is something that we're considering because I think that that's a huge thing for so many freelancers. They want that desperately. So it's definitely something that we're talking about for the future at Rachel's List.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of boards offer that now. So it's just another way to sort of pick up those referrals and stuff like that and make those connections.
I do think it happens informally anyway, because within the community of Rachel's List and other freelance communities, we do tend to give each other's work anyway, like I often do, and people that I know within those communities pass work on to me. So there is that, the abundance mentality. I think there was a Flying Solo podcast on that, which I felt was really good. Yeah, really pertinent to that.
Absolutely. And so I think, to go back to that original question, I think it is that emotional connection when things go bad and when things go well. You want to be able to go, you want someone to understand the context of winning a contract that you really want to win. Like it's great to tell your partner or your mum, but also you need that. It is that water cooler thing. And I think also the other tips were that I picked up on was that time management thing. And I think that's another thing of being part of a community as well, is getting ideas from people about how they actually manage their day and how they actually manage their work life. That to me is an endlessly fascinating conversation, by the way, like productivity as a small solo business owner, as a freelancer, how you do that, how you work out. I mean, because part of the appeal, right, of working this way is to be completely autonomous and to own your life in a really empowering sort of way. But what's really interesting is what that looks like.
Yep.
So for like the freelancers at Mums and Co, that looks like honestly 3 hours a day of work because they've got little kids and they're running a business in 3 hours a day. I mean, I can't even imagine the stress. Or realizing that you work better at night, or that you're starting earlier in the morning, and that that's what I've loved about, and like, don't shoot me because I understand COVID is terrible. What I've loved about COVID is it's teaching us all that sense of like, if you own your work, it doesn't matter how you get it done.
That's true.
Yep.
You're in charge, you own it, you're good at it, do it how you want, just get it done. And it's become so normal, to think of people that work at Ernst & Young or whatever now, working from home and trying to homeschool as well, like terrible example, but, high corporates who are now working the way freelancers do. And what I loved about last year's experience of COVID was talking to Robert Gerrish, who's Flying Solo, about it. And he was just like, everyone just gets it now. Like everyone's getting what he has been talking about for the past decade.
Yeah.
Your life and your work, they coexist. And for a happy life, they kind of have to. I think that's what freelance life says. Like from me, I've never been a freelancer, but from the outside, that's what it looks like to me. That you're actually going, this is how I'm going to build my life, and both those aspects of me are going to be joined together, and I'm going to make that work.
I love all of that because it really, you can't exist in a vacuum. That's so true. You learn so much about productivity from other people around you. You get it done when it's right for you. It's not necessarily that you are, on the clock or having someone breathing down your neck. It's about realizing, well, what works for me and making that work.
Yeah.
So true.
And what I love about your post, Rachel, on Instagram is like, vulnerability is not the right word, but you just kind of go, I just love that you post, you're posting what you're having for lunch, and you're posting that you got a deadline and that you need another cup of tea. Like it's so enjoyable, for want of a better word. Like it's real life.
Real life.
Yeah, it's a real slice of life in a really beautiful kind of accessible way. I've always loved the way you've done it. You've got a really unique voice on there. It's obviously very reflective of the people in your community.
And of the freelance life, I suppose. Yeah.
I think
It's
so
good
too.
to put it out there.
So I guess one of the things that really interests me comparing like Flying Solo to Mums and Co, because you're working with a lot of mothers now, do you think there's a difference between the way women and men approach running a business? Do you think they could learn from each other? Because you were talking about that with mothers. I mean, there's a lot more women are freelancing away from themselves because they want that flexibility. But what do you think they could learn?
That's such a great question. I've been thinking about that a lot recently, because now obviously it is mostly women that we work with. Do you think we can learn from each other? I think we need to, and I think we should be focusing on that. Certainly, I think in terms of how the different genders approach small business, in what I have observed, it's more personality type than gender.
Yeah.
Like, you're either more really productivity focused, like output focused, and you can batten down the hatches.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a gender thing so much as, obviously, like, not obviously even, you know, it's such a delicate topic now, but women tend to have more of, especially with younger children, I'm going to say, with younger children, women have more of that responsibility for that and the juggle. So I think we're probably more across what that is and how that looks like, and they're the ones that are freaking out at the moment with the homeschooling. But I think that's what's interesting about watching men in that same experience and how they're approaching their businesses. What I have observed, it's by no means a generalization, but from my observations, that they can sort of be more like their work times are more structured. It's more structure in that sense.
Because they're maybe sort of juggling things around school times or limited, or they think, wow, I've got half an hour before school pickup, I'm going to finish this story or write these 6 emails or whatever they're going to do.
That's right. But I think what women are much better at is outreach, like networking.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is the research shows that women and men network differently, and we're not as proactive. But I don't believe that's true, because you watch any woman in any scenario, like school gate pickup, whatever, always kind of relying on the person you know or someone you know who knows someone else. And I think in the business sense, that's what makes women so strong in the business community, because we are so used to, I have a friend that's good at that, like that natural networking. Like in terms of not so much results focused, but partnering. Like, I think that comes collaborating. I think that comes more naturally to us. Now, obviously, there's going to be massive amounts of examples where that's different. That gender thing is different, but certainly that's what I've observed. The structure of a man's business is different to a woman's, but a woman's networking capabilities are, I feel, more innate, more comfortable, more natural. It's less transactional.
Yeah. I know a lot of male freelancers, and I think it can be a lot more isolating. I think women have more, the society is structured in the way that there are more networks for women, particularly women with children. But whereas, you know, at school pickup, it's often the men are more isolated. They're not sort of in the group chatting and things like that. It's actually quite hard. So I think that's a challenging thing for the men who are freelancing. They don't have those societal sort of networks that are already established.
You see it in communities, don't you? Like in Facebook communities, we've got lots of guys in the gold group, but it's the women who are talking the most and who are the loudest and that sort of thing. And I would love to encourage the guys to speak up more, but I think we're natural, like you say, when, you know, it's innate for us to chat and connect and and the guys are just in the background doing their bloody work. I don't know. Maybe not.
Transactional, you said.
They're probably thinking the reason you're not getting that done is like, that's part of it. That's how I do
it. Gosh. Well, okay, let's switch gears for a minute and talk about getting customers and clients or growing a community, if that's what you're sort of trying to do. They say that your best word of mouth is happy customers. Is there any other tips that you've picked up, you know, building communities or dealing with business owners about how to get clients and how to fill your pipeline?
Tell the story of your business.
That comes up again and again, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's not for everyone, like that vulnerability, that idea of being vulnerable and sharing the story behind your business. And it is what differentiates you. And I really firmly believe, when I first heard this, I used to go, that can't be true, that's stressful. But I really think if you are standing in your business with full integrity, the right people will always find you if you are telling your story in the way that those people, like those clients will find you because you're expressing yourself in a particular way.
So it's about establishing, I guess,
Your brand.
your brand, really, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, establish and really understanding that value proposition. Like, what are you offering that the freelancer who lives next door to you, who you're chatting over the fence with, isn't?
Yep.
Or how are you doing that differently? What's your point of difference? Why should I invest in you as a customer? So understanding that, being open to showing that you are collaborative,
Yep.
and giving pats on the back to your competitors, inverted commas. Like, as a consumer, that to me is so appealing. And how you do that can be as simple as just something like a shout out on social media, or when you've got a new client, you're like, I can do that part of the job, but I have someone I know who's really excellent at those Facebook ads or whatever it is. Like, showing that you're about providing the best possible service. And if you can't provide that, pulling on your own network and sort of referring them. Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes people hire us not just for our skills, but for our contact book and who we know and our connections. Yeah.
100%. And I know not all freelance writers are journalists, obviously, but I think, like you guys would know, I don't know the percentages, but that's something that you're used to as a journalist. And there is there's a truth to that. And I think I've noticed the word partnerships so much more since COVID, the idea of working collaboratively and partnerships. Now, obviously this has always existed, but what's been nice about the past 18 months is that people are seeing that as a way to survive in their own business.
Yep.
And to show that collaborative spirit. I think it's really important. And if you're really good at that, then that's a point of difference for you. Like, you're only going to win from that.
Mhm.
It's true. It is a real skill. It's about research and everything. But I think journalists, as you say, are quite good at finding people. I always say that I'm only one or two phone calls. I may not know the person, but I'm only one or two phone calls away from the person, that you need.
Mm.
I've really gotten into LinkedIn over the last couple of years, and I feel like that's a really amazing space for a freelancer. If you can make that work for you, it's an incredible way of advertising yourself in a space that is all about work.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to feel like you're bugging your Facebook friends with another post about whatever it is. But yeah, I really feel like LinkedIn's powerful and pretty much like a little bit untapped.
Yep.
That's where you can actually show that community that you're establishing. And I think that's the next phase of freelance life is bringing in your own community and forming your own community within your little niche of work. And that you're offering that, like, it's a little micro business, if you want.
Yeah. Look, I really believe in that. The bigger your community gets, the more your pipeline fills up with work and you just
Absolutely.
have it flowing. It's when you kind of hold back and don't connect with people or don't create that posse or feel like, threatened by other freelancers, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's when everything tends to grind to a halt a bit and you're left in those slow patches and
That's right.
those tumbleweeds.
Absolutely. And that's that abundance mentality that you were mentioning, Pauline. But I also think you have to be careful. And if you're not naturally like that, you need a bit of a coaching session in that area, because then we all know we've only got a finite amount of time in a day. You don't want to spend most of your day trying to make that happen either. So there is a structure that you need in order to create that, and a certain level of confidence in your own abilities as well. And making sure you're partnering with like-minded person.
Well, I know we've talked on the podcast ad nauseum about creating content for small businesses and the types of content that freelancers can create. And a lot of our listeners work with smaller enterprises. So what are some great ways that, you've come across, some great ways that writers can add value to business owners or get those jobs?
When you're approaching that person's business, have a look at everything from their social media to their blog posts to articles they're writing outside of it to just the copy, like taking the whole picture. And don't be afraid to go, okay, so you're only hiring, potentially they're only hiring you to write a couple of articles, but you're like, hey, I've looked at this and I've looked at that. I've got some suggestions. Would you be open to a conversation about that? So just like a value add, and making suggestions for additions to things. Like, blogs used to be such a big part of a business website, and I still think super, super valuable. So if you've got a client who doesn't have something like that regularly, suggesting that they do that and suggesting how you set that up, providing solutions in a helpful way, like, and making suggestions is in like, so and so does that really well, have a look at that.
Yeah.
I see that this business is a little bit like X down the road. This is what she's doing. I would suggest having a look at that, and I'd be really happy to help you.
That's interesting.
That's a good idea, because I think giving a comparison is great, because a small business, they might be, I don't know, great at, carpentry, but they don't know where to start with their website or with their content. And so giving them a reference point is often a great way of getting them in the right framework, I think.
And a really good way of showing them that the landscape, and you know that you can back up your suggestions and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And just something's coming to mind now. There was a woman in the Flying Solo membership who was a plumber, and she started a blog writing about being a female plumber. I mean, who wouldn't?
I'm sure I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Just so fascinating. I mean, so clever.
Yeah.
And that was her idea. But, little things like that, little nuances, or the tradie podcast. Yeah, thinking outside the box a little bit. Because when you are a small business owner, you're trying to cover off so much by yourself. So if you've got someone whose work you trust and like, making little suggestions to you, that sort of frees up that part of your, you not necessarily have time to step outside. We're always talking about working in our business rather than on our businesses. That's a really common phrase in the small business world. So stepping into that as a freelancer and going, I've done this for you, but have you ever thought of that? You're solving a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
So a lot of freelancers find themselves running communities, and particularly Facebook groups, which is a common thing now. What are some tips you have on creating engagement and keeping people talking?
Yeah, look, I think, and this is really important, and probably everyone says it, but it's true, the immediacy of response.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot here by saying this, but I have really tried in every job I've ever had to reply really quickly to people's emails. And it's not fashionable to say that, because so many of those time management experts tell you, put the email down.
Only reply twice a day and all that stuff.
Okay. I think that's great advice in certain industries and jobs. And I certainly use that when I'm absolutely hammered with work. But that immediacy of response on email, on socials, is absolutely vital. Otherwise, you feel like you're shouting into the air, and it is hard and it is time consuming. But if you can do that, you're winning trust. It's like growing a community is about establishing trust. And because once that trust's broken, it's so easy to break that. It's gone. You can't get that person back.
Yeah.
You need to be able to think of ways that, in the context of the community you're building, what does trust look like? How can I win this person's trust? Because essentially that will keep them, and we'll do what we all want to do as community managers. We want someone to refer someone into our community. That's the mission.
That's how you get customers or build sales or get people coming back again. Yeah.
So that would be absolutely the first thing. The second thing is really listening then to what they are telling you, because I think it's so easy to create products and create solutions that we think our community wants. Like, it's interesting now at Mums & Co, we're pushing out a mini course, our first ever one, about pitching for business women, confident pitching for business women. And it's going really well because we've tapped into, they're telling us things all the time that they're struggling with. But at the end of the day, what does it come down to? It's that we're afraid to ask for what we want, and we don't know how to articulate what we do.
Yep.
So Carrie's created this course. It's that. And that's happened by her listening over several years to these really overwhelmed women who are trying to do a million things.
Yeah.
Coming to her and saying, help me. And it's like you can fire off a solution to all those things in themselves, but what are they really saying as a collective? They're freaking out because they just feel like they shouldn't be doing it. They're a bit of, what's that, imposter syndrome. It's like, I've got a business, but I don't even know if I should be doing it. And so I think that's like being immediate, building trust, and really listening to what they're really telling you. And that's the difference between a community that's just, hey, we've got 7 million followers, to we might only have 200 followers, but we know absolutely everything about
them and what they need.
Yeah.
That's where I think Beck Lambert does it so well with the Freelance Jungle. She's just a perfect example of that, isn't she? her and her moderators, you know.
But you're amazing at it too. Like yours is
my community is way smaller though.
I don't think it's
not about size, is it?
No.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. And the only way you get bigger is by keeping the ones that you have really happy, or at least knowing them, because we all just want to be known, don't we? That's a very need.
Yeah, known and understood.
That's true.
And you know, seen for what we are. And yeah, I think we always get obsessed with numbers. And I know we've got to make money, but at the end of the day, if you don't have that integrity, you're going to have nothing. It's not going to last.
Yeah.
Work it out in the end.
I think you mentioned before in our conversation that you find productivity and how people are productive endlessly fascinating. So do I, which makes us super nerds, I know. But
I know, I'm with you on that.
But it is something, it's something that we ask our guests on the show, because obviously everybody is interested in, you know, finding out that hot new productivity app that's going to change their work life and give them back their weekends and stuff. So what are your favorite apps and tools and things like that?
Gosh, well, disclaimer, I so rarely use apps or tools. I love reading about it, but then I never get committed to anything.
That's the power of a good app, when it finally ensnares you and you can't live without it.
I am looking for that one. I am looking for that app. Honestly, the app that I use the most all the time, and it is related, is the Insight Timer app, because I'm a huge meditator. And actually it is about productivity, because without it, I am so much less productive. So I use that. I meditate every morning and every night just for 10 minutes, but it's absolutely religious for me and has been for about 3 years. So I use that.
But just before you move on, what does that do for you, meditating morning and night? How's that changed your life?
Clarity. Yeah, I started meditating 3 years ago after a big life transition, and I'd always sort of known about it, and I thought I needed to center myself. And so started doing it in the morning, and what I realized was, it's going to sound really woo, but like the more I do it, the more answers just come to me.
Yeah,
clears your headspace.
I think it's so good for stopping the monkey chatter and like you were saying, getting that clarity. And that's so important for freelancers who, I think, a lot of the time we overthink so much. But I'm not as good as you with the meditation. I have to improve.
Well, I think to be a good writer, you have to be an overthinker by nature, right? Just like that's an opinion, but I really think you
put it out there.
I think that's what makes you a great writer, is that you can overthink things to the nth and probably overwrite them and rewrite them. But yes, it does do that for me. It shuts out the noise, and I think that essentially is the crux of productivity, right? Like we can all do our jobs. We just need the barriers to go away. And for me, that constant thinking about things is a barrier.
So it brings you the answers quicker and the clarity you need.
And
I love that.
in weird places too. Like often I'll be walking the kids to school and I'll suddenly think, oh yeah, that's how I'll do that. That's what I'll say to that. That's what, you know, like it comes to me at weird times. So that certainly is a huge part of my productivity arsenal. The other thing is, we don't use video, do we? But a weekly planner. Like this, handwritten. I find that I have to have handwritten stuff. What I'm trying to do now is take notes in meetings on Word documents, because otherwise I find I'm doodling all over the page and then I go back to read it and I'm like, what the hell was that about? So that's handwritten stuff for a to-do list and calendars, but then an open Word document during meetings to type notes. So I've kept it, and then I just attach it to the meeting thing in my diary. And I'm pretty daggy. Like I'm not tech at all. And then the other thing is just my Google Calendar. And the task thing, I've just started using the task list for each day. I'll just lie in bed and did just before I get out to make sure that I've got everything in there. See, I'm I'm not actually good at it. I'm just really interested in it, and I should probably be better at it because I'm interested in it. But then I go, yeah, I'll get to that.
Put it on your list, on your calendar.
Oh, it's bad. But you know who I love reading about productivity is Amantha Imber.
I love her podcast. I listen to her. She's on my list to get on the podcast. She's amazing. How I Work, isn't it?
How I Work, exactly. And her LinkedIn post, she's fantastic. Like she just blows my mind with the amount of stuff that she talks about. She's also got a dating podcast.
Oh, really?
I was listening to that the other day too. But yeah, so I'm not providing much helpful tips there, but for me, it is about the handwritten stuff and the electronic stuff, and constantly looking at my calendar. What I need is some kind of suggestion for an app that means that I don't have to keep looking at my calendar.
I think though sometimes those really simple solutions just work, without having to juggle a million apps and stuff like that.
And some of my favorite articles to read are like, I tried 575 apps, but now all I do is write my to-do list on Word.
I'm with you. I have to have a written to-do list. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's something about marking it off.
Absolutely.
Really
and just the beauty of it.
Satisfying.
Like notebooks and stationery, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I have a paper to-do list as well. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the key.
That is the key. We actually, this is a shameless plug, but we actually have an isolation to-do list in the toolkit at the moment at Rachel's List. So we're all stuck in like lockdown. It's actually my to-do list. It's the template that I use, and I've turned it into a,
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've turned it into an isolation one, but that is really cool. And I just have it stuck to my diary at the front, and I do a new one every Sunday night.
I love that. That's the other interesting topic actually I find is what day of the week people. I do a weekly IGTV with our Mums and Co members, and someone was telling me last week that she does hers on a Friday. And I'm like, what a freaking great idea that is.
Yes.
Then you can just clock your head out.
Yes, until Monday morning.
Doing it on Sunday night, which I do too. It's like, Sunday night, just be Sunday night.
Yeah. I'm going to start trying doing it on a Friday, but Friday I'm getting the wrap up out. And by the time that's done, I'm just knackered and ready for a glass of wine. So I don't want to do it.
Amen.
But look, Lucy, we could talk to you all day. I know that you've got to rush, but is there anything else you'd like to talk about that we haven't asked you about? Anything interesting coming up on Mums and Co that could be useful for freelancers?
I just want to push the mini course if I can, the confident business pitching for women. You don't have to be a mum. Also, you don't have to be a mum to join Mums & Co. We've got a $30 membership. It's a lifetime. But yeah, so the course we're going through the first cohort of that now, but that will be rolling on, and it's self-paced 6 weeks. And it's all about finding clarity and finding confidence. And, one of the most exciting parts of it, I think, is we have a voice coach in one of the modules, and she's talking about how you actually speak.
Wow.
When talking about your business actually has impact on who and how that person will hire you. It's absolutely fascinating. She goes into lots of detail about how your hormones are wrapped up into that, and just, it's phenomenal. So yes, if I can push that and just suggest, and if anyone wants to reach out to me and have a chat about it and how it works, happy to do that. It's going to exist on our site, forever. And it's self-paced, so you don't have to, which I think is where everything's going now, because none of us have any time. Maybe when someone creates that app,
we have all this time.
Gap in the market.
There are lots of, there are quite a few freelancing mums on there too. So, more the merrier.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Oh, Lucy, it's been great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing all the things you've done. It's been really interesting. And there's lots of great tips about thinking about yourself as a small business and just getting that confidence. I think that's a really important part of the business. So where can people find you? Obviously we'll put the links in the show notes, but LinkedIn, clearly.
Yes, find me on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I'm on there every Monday. And also Mums and Co. So mumsandco.com.au. Got a really awesome Instagram page too, if you want to check us out there. But yeah, LinkedIn, the Mums and Co website, or Instagram. It's me.
Fantastic.
Great. Yeah. Thanks so much, Lucy. And thank you everybody for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.